this video is going to be about how to identify and then reframe those limiting beliefs so that we're getting out of our own way, so that we're giving ourselves the best chance to be successful, that we're approaching things with a positive mindset, so that when we're working on things, we're feeling good. That good feeling will allow us to not get bogged down and not get stressed out, therefore, to be more productive and be more effective in whatever we're trying, right? Whether it's socially, in relationships, in career, in mastery of a skill, in money and finances, and life in general. So, one of the most famous questions to kind of test how empowered you are is to ask, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? And this is supposed to see what areas in your life you're kind of not living up to your full potential, which of course we all want to do. The thing about this idea of what would you do if you couldn't fail is that when we start to think about those things that we want to do but haven't been able to, we know the reasons why, right? We've already thought it through. We've already tried to put time, energy, effort into improving, but for some reason or many reasons, often things haven't worked out. At the same time, what is often the case is that part of those reasons that things haven't worked out is that we've stopped trying, that we've told ourselves, hey, this effort we put in before showed me that it didn't work, showed me I couldn't do it, showed me people like me couldn't do it, showed me that this thing is impossible or is only going to be for a select few or is not really for me. And so I should do something else. Whether that's social skills, making more friends, dating, having a more fulfilling and happy relationship or relationships if that's what you want, whether it's career wise, doing something that you're really passionate about, even finding your passion, doing something that will bring you financial rewards, that will give you flexibility and freedom, that will let you be a leader, that will let you be a role model to others, even if it's in terms of health and wellness, losing weight, being fit, getting that six pack, um, having, a mental state where outside things don't affect you, where you decide your mood and you can be happy whenever you want to be. Whether it's even mastery of a skill, say being the best at something, or at the very least, the very best that you can be. We often see that there's more to our desires and what we want out of life than what we've been able to achieve. And there's often a mental block associated with that, right? There's often ourselves holding us back. And that's part of the issue that we are trying to overcome. That's part of what's stopped us from being successful in the past or is stopping us from continuing to try in the here and now. So, this video is all about reframing those limiting beliefs. And core to that is this idea of a growth mindset. So, a growth mindset is the idea that over time and with effort, we can grow our skills and learn and develop and become better. So, the opposite of this is a fixed mindset. And the fixed mindset is the idea that you're you're at a certain level and that level won't change and can't change. So, kind of a classic example of this comes with intelligence, right? Some people believe that you're either born smart or you're not, that your IQ is set from a young age and can't be changed in life, right? And oftentimes it may not be expressed that directly, but Another example where it's often expressed is something like, oh, I'm not good at math, right? That's the idea that my ability in this particular area is fixed and it's part of who I am. Another example is, again, when it comes to introversion or extroversion. This is my personality. I am introverted, and therefore, you know, I'm not the most social person, right? Or I'm a little shy and it takes me some time to warm up. These are common ideas that you hear all the time. They're all throughout society. Whereas a growth mindset would have the view, hey, maybe I haven't been good at math in the past, but if I were to work on it, devote time to it, get a tutor, maybe retake some classes where maybe I've missed things, then I would get better. That same idea applied to introversion may be, hey, I'm shy, I'm introverted, um, I recharge when I'm alone, but perhaps if I could go out, be the life of the party, and make other people feel good when they're around me, maybe that would give me more energy, and maybe I wouldn't think of myself as an introvert as much. Maybe if I had better social skills and was more comfortable in different environments, then I wouldn't be an introvert, or at the very least, I would still have an introverted side, but I would also be able to kind of lean in to an extroverted side as well and be more of an ambivert, right? So that's one of the first kind of ways to identify this mindset that may be holding you back. Are you labeling yourself? If you are labeling yourself in this way, say, I'm not good at math or I'm an introvert, then that's buying into this kind of fixed mindset, this idea of this is who I am. And a more empowered way to look at things is to say, this is who I have been, but if I were to put in the time, effort, energy, devote myself to changing, then I could change, right? And that's really the first, and in some ways, the most important step to kind of being more empowered, to helping yourself live up to this full potential, is to recognize that the person that you have been is not the person that you have to be going forward, and that you can change, you can improve, you can grow, but it will come with time, effort, energy, and oftentimes it comes with a bit of discomfort. Say if it was easy and comfortable, it would already be done, right? The tasks that are left to us in the world are the hard ones because all the easy stuff has been done by the people who came before us. So work and effort and time and energy is always going to be a part of it. Now, just giving kind of the definition of a growth mindset and a fixed mindset is often not enough to recognize when we're exhibiting it in our own lives. So I gave the example of labels, right? Is this a label that you're applying to yourself, and having that be a way to identify areas where you may have more of a fixed mindset, or and areas where there could kind of be potential for change. Another way to identify these areas where kind of our own mindset or our own beliefs are limiting us or holding us back is to think about the growth and fixed mindset as two sides of a spectrum, right? That it's not completely growth mindset or completely fixed mindset, but that there can be kind of varying degrees or varying levels in between. So I'm going to highlight some of those so that as you're thinking about your own life, areas where you want to improve, areas where maybe you feel like you've tried and things haven't worked out, you can identify if your mindset is part of the reason that maybe you're looking at things from a particular perspective, and that if you were to change your perspective, adopt more of the growth mindset, then you'd be more empowered, feel better about what you're doing, therefore be more productive and more successful. So again, one side of the spectrum closer to the fixed mindset is this idea that something is impossible for everyone, that no one can do it, right? And there are some things that are impossible for us humans in general. No human on Earth can jump 50 feet into the air without, special assistance. some tool or jetpack or whatever. So if you have a goal of jumping really high, then that is impossible. And we're not really talking about those things that just are humanly, physically impossible, but we're talking about kind of more tangible, real things. So this idea applied to introversion or something like that would be, um, let's say that this idea applied to relationships. This idea applied to relationships could take the form of no one is in a happy relationship, right? All the single people out there want to be in a more fulfilling long-term relationship. Many people who get married end up divorced, so they're not in a fulfilling long-term relationship. And then the people who are married and who are not divorced are often unhappy, going to therapists or marriage counselors, or have their own problems, their own fights, their own issues. And so to truly find love, find happiness in a relationship with another person is actually just impossible. And society is just selling us a lie so that they can make money off of this lie, right? That would be a fixed mindset that it's impossible to find happiness in a relationship for everyone. And if they tell you otherwise, they're just lying to you, right? So getting further down the spectrum, closer to a growth mindset, but still kind of on the limited side of things, would be this idea that it may be possible for other people, but it's not possible for me, right? There are special circumstances or factors which mean that I can't achieve this. So maybe, again, thinking back to this relationship example, sure, some people have found happiness in relationships and a long-term partner, but I have baggage, and my baggage doesn't allow me to connect with other people in a way that would really lead to a happy and fulfilling long-term relationship, right? Another example of this could be, again, with this kind of fixed mindset of it's possible for other people, but not for me, is I'm too old, right? Sure, some people can find happiness and find a relationship, but at my age, the options, all the good options have already been taken. There's only trash out there on the dating market, and so I'm never going to find love or happiness or a fulfilling relationship myself. Okay? Now, again, the flip side of that, which is again getting closer to a more empowered, more of a growth mindset, is then thinking, I can do it, right? That there are certain reasons or circumstances that would allow me to do it where maybe not everyone else would. So this could take the form of not everyone's going to find a happy relationship, but young, healthy, vibrant, and a hopeful romantic. And so if I keep looking, then I'll find it, right? And it still incorporates this idea of, there will be effort, there will be work, I will have to try at it, but I can do it. This could also take the form of, um, I've had, I've tried online dating, and there's some people who match with me. So maybe if I were to do it long enough, cast a wide enough net, or be able to kind of drill down to the particular people who match my interests, are my type, then I would be happy and successful in a long-term relationship. So getting, again, kind of in a similar side of a similar idea on that growth mindset side is the idea of, or on this spectrum, is the idea of it's not impossible, so I can do it too, right? Other people have done it, so therefore I can do it too. Other people have found happiness, success, long-term marriages that, lead to wonderful families, and so I can do it too, right? It's kind of drawing on other people and what you see around you in the world and using that to motivate you, to energize you, to feel like, hey, it's not impossible. I've seen it, and therefore I can do it too. Even kind of further along this spectrum, closer to, a true kind of pure growth mindset, is the idea of it's not impossible, and so I can do it, right? Truly empowered, right? If it's not physically or humanly impossible, then I can do it. So an example of this applied to dating relationships may be something like, you know, um, I have a goal of being like a real life version of The Bachelor or The Bachelorette, where there are, you know, tens or even more single, available, attractive, correct, charismatic people who are vying for my attention, and I'm evaluating them and choosing the best one. So I have options, I have many options, and then I'm choosing among the best of those options, right? It's the idea of it's not impossible at all for me to find happiness and a relationship that I'm really going to enjoy, that's going to be fulfilling, and I can do it at a great degree. I can do it beyond what most people would even think about, dream about, because it's not impossible. I just have to work at it, put in the effort, or present myself in the right way, and it'll happen. So I've talked about kind of some examples with this through kind of this relationship lens. Now, to hopefully kind of make things even more clear, I'm going to talk about it through a lens, let's say, relating to careers. So, oftentimes I hear about people and have helped people who are looking to change careers, right? So, on the spectrum from growth to fixed mindset, again, starting on the fixed mindset side, it may be an idea of, you know, no one, no one is truly happy in their career. And so, what's the point in even trying to change careers? You know, the people who are rich are still unhappy. People who are poor are unhappy. The people who are middle are trying to become more rich, and so no one's truly fulfilled in their careers. They're all working to get more, or you know, eyeing something else. And so, why even change careers? Why even put in that time and effort if I'm gonna go from a place where I'm not happy now to another place where I'm also not happy? Right? It's the idea of it's stuck and it's impossible for everyone. And so why even try? Moving to a more empowered mindset may be sure it's possible for some people, but it's hard or impossible for me. Sure, some people have changed careers and been able to pivot and become successful, but I'm too old to do that. And so no employer is going to want to hire me at this age. They're going to want someone younger. And so changing careers at my age is really not a wise thing to even try and do. It could be in the form of, sure, it's possible for some people to change careers, but for me, I would have to go back to school. That would require time outside the workday or investment in terms of a degree or program or something else. And I'm too old to learn, to be retaught, to learn these new things, to even want to invest that time and effort into doing it. And so a career change is impossible for me. Moving to an even more empowered kind of viewpoint is other people have done it and I can do it too. So there are people who've changed careers and ended up being more happy and more successful in those careers. And so if I were to start putting in a few hours a week into gaining some new skills, or if I were to start networking and shadowing people in different jobs, I would find something that I really liked and I would be able to make the switch. And I know that once I found something that I liked and made the switch, I would enjoy it. And because I enjoyed it, I would be more successful. And, even more empowered view is again along the spectrum of growth to fix to growth mindset. The kind of most empowered view is it's not impossible, so I can do it and be successful. I can be the first one to do it. I can change careers, become an entrepreneur, and have a $1 trillion company. Right? It's not impossible to have $1 trillion company. I can do it though. I can be successful where others failed. I can learn from them. That will help me along the way. I can improve myself, and as I keep improving myself, investing in my skills, that will help me to be more successful. That will invite other people who I can lean on and help kind of cultivate their skills, and when they're happy and enjoying what they're doing, we'll kind of be building off of each other, and it'll be an upward spiral, and that upward spiral will take us all collectively to new heights, and we'll all achieve a degree of success that the world hasn't seen before. Okay, so we've talked about the definition of kind of fixed and growth mindset, shown some examples, shown how there can be kind of levels along the spectrum. One thing one thing I do want to talk about now is kind of why this is important, why you should even care, right? And one, essentially in general, is that research has shown that those with a fixed mindset tend to enjoy higher levels of success and happiness in life. So this can take has taken the form of kind of mental wellness. So there was a study of college freshmen, right? And it asked them to rate themselves according to different questions. So it was kind of the 1 to 5, do you strongly disagree with this? Do you disagree? Are you neutral? Do you agree? Do you strongly agree? So 1 to 5, kind of Likert scale, ask people how they identify with kind of certain statements that were asked of them. And these statements were particularly chosen to assess whether the person had a growth mindset or more of a fixed mindset. And what they found is that those who had more of a growth mindset exhibited better levels of mental wellness. So they reported feeling less stressed due to kind of certain life events that came up. Those who had more of a growth mindset reported lower levels of mental health issues, and they reported lower levels of stress due to life events. So, overall, a greater mental wellness associated with those who had more of a growth mindset. I mentioned education earlier in the video, and there have been a number of studies on growth mindset and how it relates to education. One of these studies with a growth mindset in education was of high schoolers, right, where it did a similar thing, had the high schoolers assess how much they identify with a growth mindset and how much they identify it with a fixed mindset, and then looked at their performance on test scores. Now, this study found that the high schoolers who were on the real growth mindset side were 3 times as likely to be in the top 20% of test scores. And those high schoolers who were far on the fixed mindset side were 4 times more likely to be in the bottom 20% of test scores. So, and this growth mindset ends up contributing to your success attainment in education, or at least that's what this study suggests. And further along those lines, there was even a study of middle school students where they were again asked to assess, or they were assessed kind of and put on a scale of, more growth mindset to more fixed mindset. And this study found that the middle schoolers who had more of a fixed mindset, or assessed to have more of a fixed mindset, not only had higher test scores, but over time improved their test scores more than those with a fixed mindset. So if you are not starting off at where you want, having this growth mindset helps you improve more quickly than others who don't, right? So it's not just having the growth mindset gives you higher levels of success or lower stress. It helps you improve more quickly than not having that mindset. And so it truly is empowering, and identifying places in your life where you would hopefully want to adopt more of a growth mindset can help you improve in those areas more quickly than you might think, or more quickly than others who would be in the same boat as you. All that being said, talking about the definition, showing examples, identifying where you are on the spectrum. Adopting a growth mindset is, of course, easier said than done, right? And even if and when you identify places where you would want more of a growth mindset, where your mindset may be limiting you or causing you to feel stressed or other things, but, holding you back from reaching your full potential, or where you're not feeling truly empowered, recognizing that and then changing are two different things. So, what can we do to actually help us change, to actually help us improve, to give us a better chance of success, to bring us more success in our life? The first idea that I want to share around this is that our thoughts influence our actions, and our actions influence our thoughts, right? So, part of the reason I started with a growth mindset is to help change your thinking about certain things, right? So I mentioned introversion. That was a big one that I'd identify with. I'm an introvert. I'm just not a very social person. And so, big social gatherings, bars and clubs aren't my scene. It's not something for me. Part of that thought was reinforced by me having gone to a bar or club a few times and feeling uncomfortable there, feeling like I didn't have a good time, right? So I thought this way, I identified with it. Then when I went out to the real world, I got some feedback that made me say, okay, this is the right way to think. And that helped fortify that belief in my mind. This same idea of your thoughts feeding your actions and your actions feeding your thoughts can be used to drive more positive change, though, right? So, with the example of introversion, as I started working on my social skills more, as I started reading more books about communication, as I started learning from different coaches and gurus, it got me thinking, well, maybe if I were more comfortable and more skilled socially, then I would enjoy being out around people more, and that would give me more energy. If I could know that I made other people's night better when I met them out, then that would bring me an energy, and maybe I would be more of an extrovert than I've really been thinking or identifying with. But it's hard to go from 0 to 100, right? We want our actions to kind of feed our thoughts as well. And a great strategy for doing that is to start small. Start small, but also be consistent with our actions. So it's kind of an idea of a mini habit, right? So with the introversion, when I did start working on my social skills, when I started going out more, my goal was start a conversation with one person, right? That goal is something that I completely could control, and it was something that I could achieve fairly easily, right? You want a goal or a habit that you can do regularly to kind of get yourself in the swing of things, get yourself more used to it, and you want something that you can control. So a different goal may have been, I want to make a new friend every month. You can go out, start a conversation with people, present yourself, but you can't make them be your friend. So that is a good goal to have. You should not have that goal, but you should also focus on what you can do to get to that goal, right? What task can you do in the here and now to help you get there? And one of the tasks that you could help do in the here and now is start a conversation with a new person, every day or every week or however often you're comfortable with. But essentially, start working towards that direction in a way where you can control it, where you can decide how much effort you want to do, and where you can see success as part of that effort, right? You can have the goal of a new friend every month and starting a conversation with a new person every week. And you're controlling whether you start the conversation with a new person every week. Maybe it leads to a new friend every month, maybe it doesn't. And when you're starting a conversation with a new person every week, you don't have to limit yourself to one, right? The one is the minimum. This is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to make sure of it. But you may be in a social environment. You may be in a networking setting where there's many people around, and so you don't limit yourself to just talking to one person. You talk to one person, maybe it goes well, maybe it doesn't. Then you turn over your shoulder, talk to the person behind you or to your side or whoever else, and now you're exceeding your goal. But taking the action of talking to that one person, setting that small goal, getting into the habit of working towards your goal, then influences your thoughts as well. So, hey, I was an introvert, being social isn't my thing. Now my brain is seeing me act in a way where it is becoming more of a thing. I am starting more conversations. I am being less shy. And so, therefore, my thoughts about myself also start to change. As my thoughts about myself start to change, where, okay, I had been introverted in the past, but now I'm seeing myself get out there a little bit more. Maybe this introverted side of me is still there, and it is still there, but maybe I can also kind of stretch and, in some situations, lean into something else. That's then feeding my actions to say, okay, I don't feel like I'm being an imposter when I'm going out and starting conversations, even though I'm still a bit uncomfortable, but I feel like it's an area of growth for me, right? I'm a little bit more comfortable now, and so then that's giving me more energy, more incentive, more of a good vibe to kind of keep those actions going a little bit further. So your thoughts feeding your actions and starting these mini habits can kind of help you get there. Another example is with fitness, right? You may have a goal to lose 10 pounds, right? Well, that's not something that you can do in the short term. You can't just lose 10 pounds in a day. So you set a goal to focus on what you can do. Maybe you've not gone to a gym in years, right? You feel like I'm so far removed from the gym and everything else that even the idea of joining, signing up for a membership, I feel like would be a waste because I know I'm not in the habit of going and working on my fitness and devoting my time to that. So set yourself a smaller goal and work to get into the habit of being more fit, right? It could be I'm going to go on a walk just outside, down my driveway and back twice a day. I'm going to spend 2 minutes walking where before you were spending zero. That little goal will help get you into the habit of, okay, working on my exercise or on my fitness or on my health is now a part of my day. It's now something I'm doing regularly. And of course, you can build on that. You can go for a 30-minute walk if you want to, And of course, disclaimer, medical disclaimer, you should consult your doctor before beginning an exercise regimen, um, blah, blah, blah. But the point is, you start small. You don't have to cap yourself, but you want to be doing some minimum so that you're getting into the habit. And as you're getting into the habit, it will slowly change your mindset, and you'll discover that you don't just always stick to the minimum. Sometimes you go a little bit further, you do a little bit more. That helps you feel more motivated, more energized, more positive about where you're at, about the direction that you're going, and helps you then work towards those bigger goals. You may start with doing one push up a day. That one push up or one sit up is something that you control, that you can do, and helps you get into the habit of thinking about your fitness, thinking about your health, and working towards a larger, bigger goal of losing 10 pounds that is not something that you can achieve in the short term, um, and that you want to work towards in the longer term. So, using these mini habits or mini goals, starting small, lowering the bar, it's all to get you started, to help you start to take the steps that will help improve you, that will get you closer to where you want to be, but also not invite that sort of judgment that comes from, I'm not there yet, right? There's going to be, it takes a long time to lose 10 pounds. And so there's going to be a lot of days where if your goal is to lose 10 pounds and that's all you're thinking about, where you're going to think, I failed or I've not won yet because I haven't lost the weight. When you're thinking about these small goals, lowering the bar, you're not judging yourself in such a harsh way. It's I did my part for the day. I did my walking for the day. I did my sit-ups for the day, and those sit-ups, that walking, is helping me get closer to the goal, where the longer term goal, where I want to end up with the weight loss or with my, greater fitness. Now, along those lines, when we're thinking about these goals and habits and tasks that we can control, again, our actions are influencing our thoughts are influencing our actions. So I talked a bit about choosing these goals in the right way, but I'm going to now expand on that a little bit more so that we're getting an even more positive mindset as we're taking these actions. And one thing to think about when doing that is focusing on success more than focusing on failure, right? Excuse me. This goal applied to the introversion could be think more about the conversations you start and less about how many conversations don't end the way you want, right? So I talked about a goal of making a new friend every so often, every month or however often, right? If you're focused on, well, hey, I started conversations with 5 people and none of them became my friend, you may be thinking, well, I failed 5 times. Sure, I did the check mark of starting a conversation. I focused on what I can control. But if you're then kind of ruminating and thinking about where things didn't go well, that can invite a self judgment and a negativity that then makes you feel less like you're going to reach that larger goal that you're working towards. If you're focused more on the success of, hey, I started 5 conversations, whether they went good, bad, or indifferent, I started it and that is success, then you're more empowered, you're feeling better about yourself. That will invite you to keep going longer than others who are kind of on the more negative side. At the very least, in general, it does. So, along these same lines, focus more on solutions than on problems, right? With the fitness, for example, you may be thinking, well, I want to lose 10 pounds, but work has been so busy, it's hard for me to find the time to go to the gym, or I'm leaving work and I'm not in the right clothes to go to the gym, or I've never worked out before, and so I'm not going to be doing exercises that are really efficient to help me lose weight. And if you're focused on these reasons why, these problems, or at the very least, potential problems, then that can stop you from thinking about solutions, right? So, some solution, hey, I've been really busy at work, and so it's hard for me to find the time to go to the gym. Well, a solution could be, well, maybe I can incorporate some sort of fitness while I'm at work. Maybe I can stand up and do a couple of squats, during the day when I'm in the office or when I'm on the job and it's slightly a little bit slower. And that's helping me to get closer towards my fitness goals, my larger, longer term fitness goals. And you're more empowered as you're working towards them than you would be just focusing on the negatives and the issues and the things that could get in the way. You know, I don't have the right clothes. Maybe the solution would be, well, carry another set of clothes with you in your car and your book bag, so that you have something to change into. Or just, hey, maybe accept that every time I go to the gym, I'm not going to be in the shorts or in the yoga pants or with the tennis shoes. And so I may be coming in with, boots on or something else, but I'm still going to do some activities where I can work out in those boots just so that I'm still working towards my larger long-term goal. To kind of have a more positive mindset or keep yourself in a more positive headspace as you're working towards your goals and incorporating this growth mindset to be more empowered is to focus more on what you want and less on what others want, right? So with the introversion, for example, I wanted to be able to present myself in business settings. I wanted to be able to have more, to go on more dates, right? And focus on what you want, right? Some people may say, you know, you should be going on this many dates or else you're a loser, right? And if you focused on the judgment from others, you're kind of inviting that judgment, which can lead to more negativity for yourself, right? If you're focused on what others think of as business success instead of what you really want from, business or from your career, then that can invite a certain judgment and negativity that ends up holding you back. And another way to challenge our limiting beliefs and to really help us adopt a more empowered growth mindset is that is to think about a couple of questions when we do encounter reasons why we can't succeed or reasons why we feel like things will be hard. So this is one I like a lot. I feel like could be a little bit more fun, is that when you encounter yourself thinking, oh, I can't do this, or this is going to be hard, or this isn't for me, is to ask, who lied and told you that, and why did you believe them? So I mentioned myself and working through my introversion, right? I used to feel like, you know, a bar isn't the place for me. I'm not going to find people who I identify with who really resonate with me. And a challenge to that would be, well, who lied and told you that, and why did you believe them? So oftentimes when we ask ourselves these questions, it's we can't think back to a particular person saying, this is the way it is and this is why you should believe it, but it's just a belief that we have adopted ourselves over time, right? It's to help you identify the source of where this is coming from and to question whether that source is right and can be trusted and is right in every situation, right? So with the introversion and going to bars, it's like, okay, who lied and told you that you were an introvert, that you wouldn't enjoy a bar, and why did you believe them? Have you really gone to that many bars, and have you gone to bars in different places and different types of bars to even see it for yourself? Or is this just a belief that you have and have adopted, but is a little bit different than reality would be? With career change, who told you that you couldn't change careers and why did you believe them, right? Is it someone saying, no, you can't do it? And even if they did say that, why should you feel like that's the case always? You know, when applying for jobs, you can have 20 rejections and then one person say yes, and that's all you need is the one person to say yes. With dating or relationships, you can have 20, 50 people who don't like you and the one who loves you, and the one that matters is the one who loves you and leads to a happy, fulfilling, you know, joyous life, right? So even if there are people who have said no or who have rejected you or have fed into these beliefs that you have, often it's the case that they're expressing their point of view, but all it takes is one person with a different point of view for you to identify with and to get to that next step, right? There can be many people who don't believe in you, but all it can take is the one person who does to really help you get to that next level of success in your career or in life, or, bring that happiness and joy and love that you really need, that you really want, that, then helps you kind of take your life to the next level, helps you get closer to fulfilling your full potential, helps you get closer to living a happy, meaningful, purposeful life, to really being your best self. And, I talked about kind of these numbers that it can only take one. It's important to recognize that chance often plays a role, and oftentimes a big role, in our lives. So, starting a conversation, you can tell the same story to 10 different people, and nine people, don't want to hear it, don't give you the time of day, and one does. If you recognize that there is inherently some chance, some randomness, and how people will respond to you, you can even be talking to the same person, catch them on different days at different times, tell them the same story, and they respond in different ways. So recognize that you always want to be focused on your part and what you can do, but that just focusing on your part and what you can do is not enough to achieve a certain outcome. Sometimes it's outside of your control. It's, in God's hands or left to chance, and you just have to accept that, right? You sometimes the job you apply to, you may be the best candidate on paper, but for whatever reason, you don't end up getting the job. Maybe they don't end up hiring someone, even though there was a vacancy announcement posted online. That's just chance. You did what you could, you applied, you looked at your resume. So take comfort in what you've done and the effort that you've been putting in. Be kind to yourself and recognize that sometimes things are left to chance. Still ask yourself, hey, what could I improve? What could I change to give myself a better chance of success to increase my odds for next time? But recognize that it's not fully in your control. Hey, ask 10 different people on dates. Um, sure, think about, well, what could I do to improve the chances of them saying yes? But also recognize that sometimes it's out of your hands and you want to focus on what you can do. And if you're not getting the results you want, not getting the success you want, sometimes it is, at least in part, due to chance. So focus on what you can do, but also recognize that, hey, I'm going to have to accept what the world gives me, what life gives me, and think about how to move on in the best way possible. Now, another kind of framework to think about in terms of challenging limiting beliefs is to think about how these kind of external, how these actions, how these tasks, how these things in the world relate to our internal state, right? And then we're going to kind of take steps to think about those two things together, right? So, again, going back to the example of introversion, just because that was big in my life, was this idea that I'm a shy guy, and so being in a club or a club environment is not something for me, right? There's that external being at a club with many people around, loud music, and then the internal state that was associated with it. And the internal state that was associated with it is a discomfort, sometimes even a sense of being out of place, sense of self-judgment. A framework to really rethink that and challenge kind of some of those internal beliefs and those limiting beliefs is to first think about the external and how can you think about the external in a different way, right? So instead of thinking, a club with loud music and people dancing is not going to be for me, maybe you think about that in a different way. Maybe you think about that as a high energy environment and that you just need to be higher energy to resonate with the people in that environment, right? So change the way you think about the environment to not see it as so off-putting or so uncomfortable. And if you think about it in this little different way, maybe that can help you feel more positively about it, which then helps you kind of change your behaviors, change the way you show up, change the way you think about things. You also want to see if you can kind of reframe or challenge the way that you felt internally, right? So, in this different environment, and I'm uncomfortable, but maybe it's not just a feeling of, anxiety from a bunch of strangers around and me feeling out of place, but maybe it's also a little bit of excitement kind of mixed in there. Maybe the kind of feeling I'm feeling on the inside is really thinking, okay, if there's a lot of people around and maybe it's excitement thinking, and there may be someone out here for me. There may be someone I really identify with, someone I really connect with, and that brings you a little bit of excitement. So sure, you'll still feel the anxiety or the pressure, but maybe it's also a little bit of excitement that's mixed in there that I haven't been thinking about before. So we've talked about rethinking the environment and rethinking what we're feeling inside. Another way to kind of challenge these limiting beliefs is identify an example that goes against what you think or believe. Is with the introversion, is there ever an example of when I've been out at a more high energy environment and I have felt comfortable? There were times in the past where I was out with my friends and there were a lot of people around, a lot going on, but I didn't feel the anxiety, I didn't feel the judgment, I didn't feel like people were looking at me. And so maybe it's not always the case that these environments aren't for me, that I'm not going to feel comfortable, that I'm not going to find people that I like. Maybe it's just I'm kind of overthinking that or buying into that mindset, that idea, giving that a little bit more energy than it really deserves or than the past has really shown. And continuing with that, finding a counterexample in your own life is to think about it from a broader sense of, is this the case for everyone across the world? Is it the case that everyone feels uncomfortable in, a club or a bar or out around other people? Or is it just something that I've been feeling? Right? That can be empowering in a couple of ways, is to one, think about others who have become comfortable in those environments, who have achieved the goal or the thing that you want, and think about ways that you might be able to learn from them. It may be via a book, via a podcast, or whatever else, being around them, talking to them, shadowing on the job. Um, but that idea that, hey, these things that I'm thinking, that I'm feeling, others have thought, others have felt, and there are even some who have overcome them, who have fought through them. So if I can learn from these others, if I can adopt some of their teachings, if I can start to incorporate some of their best practices, then I may be able to learn and be more comfortable and achieve in a way that helps me, become closer to my best self, right? And even the case of, is it happening all the time with everyone and every time with you? Is this idea of, if it were to happen 1,000 more times, would it necessarily be the way that I'm always feeling right now? Say, I've felt uncomfortable, in a bar. Well, if I were to be in 1,000 different bars, would it be the case that I was always feeling uncomfortable? Would there be some situation, some circumstance where actually I would feel more comfortable? Is there some career where actually I would be happy on the job? Is there some person out there who actually would be a good match for me in terms of compatibility and in terms of life goals and, building a future together, right? Really trying to hone in on examples or instances that challenge these internal beliefs, these limiting beliefs, to show you that it's not always the case. This thing that I'm thinking is not always true. And now that I'm focusing on these examples where it's not true, I realize that I can get closer to those things. I can maneuver. The path that I've walked up to this point in life doesn't have to be the path that I'm walking, from today onwards. So I can change, I can improve, I can grow. Again, going back to this growth mindset from really challenging these limiting beliefs. To kind of wrap things up, I want to expand on the idea of kind of small goals and mini habits, and think about ways that we can kind of break things down into more manageable, smaller steps. So I mentioned working on my introversion and starting with the goal of talking to one person when I went out. That's something I could control. That was a small thing, something that I did regularly to become a habit, to get myself to be in a headspace and to practice being more extroverted, right? To be more comfortable socially, to develop more charisma. So that is good. It helps you get there. It starts to feed those positive thoughts, which then help you kind of further your actions. But again, I'd also mention having the bigger goal as well that you're also working to something longer term. You can kind of keep this process going of these small goals, small habits, small steps that help you work towards the larger, longer term goal, but you'll have to evolve these steps along the way oftentimes, right? So if you're just walking down to the end of the driveway and back, that may not be enough extra exercise to get you to lose the 10 pounds. But once you've gotten into the habit of walking down to the end of the driveway and back, you're now ready to challenge yourself to grow a little bit more. Okay. So you still want the longer term goal of losing 10 pounds. You realize that the small tasks that you're taking regularly are not quite enough to get you there. Well, then expand on those. Now it's, maybe a couple times to the end of the driveway and back, or maybe it's a 5-minute walk every day. You were doing one sit up before, maybe now you're going to do 3 sit ups a day. You're slowly increasing, slowly progressing as you get more comfortable, slowly challenging yourself to be a little bit outside of your comfort zone so that you're getting closer and closer and closer to those bigger, longer term goals, right? It started with talk to one person a day, then it expanded to, start conversations with at least 2 people. Then it was, start conversations with at least 3. Then it was start conversations with 3 people, and at least one of them needs to be someone who you feel uncomfortable with. So maybe it's a work setting and they're, higher ups, big wigs, big bosses, and you feel a little bit less comfortable talking to them in the elevator when you see them in the hall. Now I'm challenging myself to, again, step outside of my comfort zone, do a little bit more. Out in a bar or wherever else, you see someone attractive, you feel a little bit more nervous about going up and starting a conversation with them. Challenge yourself to do that as well. So, this idea of kind of progressive improvement, that you're starting small, you may have small goals, but as you are working towards those goals, you can expand, do more and more, and that helps you grow, develop, so that in the end, in the long term, you're getting the big goals that you want. You're getting the, career and financial success you want. You're getting the relationship and dating success that you want. You're getting the health and wellness success that you want. You're expanding your view of what's possible for you. And along those same lines, you're expanding your definition of success. And as you're doing it, you're feeling good, feeling more positive about yourself. And that's helping you kind of stay in a good space to achieve these greater things, to be closer to this better version of your best self, to live up to that full potential that you can live up to, that sometimes others have seen in you and told you about. So it's really a upward spiral, and it can be hard to start to figure out where to start to identify these places in your life where you may be holding yourself back, or where these beliefs are, you know, causing you to feel a little bit more negative. But kind of once you identify them, once you start taking the small steps, you start seeing that success, even on a small scale. You start saying, hey, at least I'm doing something to get me further along. That feeds the positive energy, that gets you into the habit, that gets you then more excited about, helps you find more people who can give you more insight, and helps you get to your goals quicker in a more happy way, and helps you become the best person that you can be, which is what we all want in the end. Make sure to subscribe to this channel so that you can catch more of these upcoming videos. And thank you. I wish you the very best.